What are
The space
reasons?
station floated silently above a dying red planet. It was called Station Orlon 7,
It's nothing I've
a
seen
busy
before.
stop for travelers, traders, and lost souls. Inside the crowded food hall, aliens of every shape and color filled the seats, talking, laughing, eating. But at the very edge, near the trash bin, sat an old alien with wrinkled skin, drooping eyes, and trembling hands. His name was Zeltor, though no one called him by name anymore. In front of him was a bowl, empty and cold, not a single crumb inside. He sat still, staring at it like he could fill it with memory alone. Two guards stood near the doorway, both wearing dark armor and sharp eyes. They were watching him, whispering to each other. "That one's back again," said the taller one. "He hasn't paid in 3 days," replied the other. "We warned him, didn't we?" Zeltor heard them, but he didn't move. He was tired, so tired, and his legs ached from sleeping on metal floors. Still, he came here every day, hoping someone would remember who he was. No one ever did. Then the guards moved, boots clicking. Against the steel floor, they walked up to him, voices cold and sharp. "Get up," the tall one said. "No food. No seat." Zeltor looked up slowly, his mouth dry, his voice even drier. I was just resting," he whispered. "I'm not causing trouble." "You're not welcome here anymore," the other guard said, grabbing his shoulder. Other aliens nearby glanced over, then looked away, pretending not to see. Just then, the cafeteria door hissed open, and a human walked in. He was young, maybe 25, tall, with messy brown hair and a curious face. His name was Jack Weller, a mechanic from Earth on a transport job. He had come to Station Orlon 7 for a short break before catching his shuttle. He scanned the food stalls, thinking about getting something spicy. Then he saw the commotion, the old alien, the two guards, the tension. Something in Jack's chest pulled tight. He didn't know the alien, but the way he sat, so quiet, so broken, it reminded Jack of someone, his own grandfather back on Earth, who used to sit by the window when no one visited. Jack walked toward the scene, unsure why. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was instinct, maybe it was just the right thing to do. "Hey," Jack said, stepping between the guards and the old alien. "What's going on here?" "Not your business, human," the tall guard snapped. "He hasn't paid for his meals in 3 days, the second guard added. "He's loitering, using up space." Jack looked down at Zeltor, who kept his eyes low, ashamed. "Was it much?" Jack asked quietly. 17 credits, the guard replied, annoyed. "But that's not the point." Jack reached into his pocket, pulled out his credit chip, and tapped the payment terminal. The machine beeped. 17 credits? "Paid," said the voice from the screen. The guards blinked, surprised. "Why would you do that?" one asked. "He's not your problem." Jack didn't answer right away. Instead, he turned to the old alien. "Mind if I sit here?" he asked. Zeltor looked up, shocked, then slowly nodded. Jack sat down beside him, placing a fresh meal packet on the table. "I didn't order food," Zeltor said, his voice weak. "I know," Jack said, opening the packet. "But I did." He pushed the food toward the old alien, who stared at it like it was gold. The guard stood for a moment, then left, mumbling under their breath. The other aliens returned to their own meals, the moment forgotten. But Jack and Zeltor sat in silence, the steam from the food rising between them. After a long pause, the old alien whispered, "Why would a human help me?" Jack looked at him, then shrugged. "Because someone helped me once too," he said. Zeltor nodded slowly, taking a small bite, his hands still shaking. The food tasted like hope, and for the first time in many cycles, the empty bowl was full again. The food court returned to normal, but Jack couldn't stop thinking. He sat next to the old alien for several minutes, watching him eat slowly, bite by bite, like every spoon carried a story. Others kept their heads down, pretending not to notice, but they noticed. They just didn't care. Jack tried to ask questions, but the old alien barely spoke. He only gave his name, Zeltor, and said thank you 3 times. Jack offered to help him find a better place to sleep, but Zeltor only shook his head. "This place is fine," he whispered. "They don't hit me here." Those words sank into Jack's chest like ice. Before Jack could ask more, two staff workers approached the table. One of them was holding a small scanner. The other looked annoyed. "You can't stay here all day," the taller one said. "Mealtime is over." Jack stood up and nodded. "We'll leave in a second." But the worker didn't back off. Instead, he scanned Zeltor's bowl and checked the payment system. "You paid his bill?" he asked Jack, his tone full of disbelief. "Yes," Jack replied. "And the next one too, if needed." The staff exchanged glances. Then the taller one leaned in. "You don't know what you're doing, human," he whispered. "That one, he's not just poor, he's cursed," Jack frowned. "What do you mean cursed?" "He used to be someone," the worker said, lowering his voice, "before the Empire erased him." The other worker tugged his sleeve. "Don't start." But Jack was already curious. They left the food hall, and Jack helped Zeltor walk. Slowly down the corridor, the old alien moved like his bones were glass, every step a struggle. They sat near a vending unit where fewer people passed by. Jack gave him a protein bar and said, "Tell me the truth." Zeltor looked at the bar like it was treasure, but his face stayed blank. "There was a time," Zeltor said slowly, "when I was welcome here. I was a protector, a guide, a pilot for rescue missions during the war. I saved over 300 lives, from many species, even humans." Jack listened quietly, not interrupting. "But then peace came," Zeltor continued. "And peace has no place for old soldiers with secrets." "What secrets?" Jack asked, but Zeltor looked away. "I was told to forget," he said, "to disappear. And so I did, but hunger doesn't forget." He took another bite of the protein bar, chewing slowly. Jack leaned forward, his voice firm but kind. "Someone tried to erase your name, but it didn't work. You're still here," Zeltor gave a tired smile. "But I'm not really living. I'm just fading." Jack stood up, his fists clenched. He hated injustice, and this felt personal now. Back on Earth, his uncle had died homeless. Even after serving in 2 wars, nobody had cared. Not until it was too late. The next day, Jack returned to the food hall alone. He went to the counter and asked about the bill again. The same guard from before stepped up, arms crossed. "You again?" he growled. Jack nodded. "Yeah, me again. I want to clear all of Zeltor's unpaid bills." The guard laughed. "Why?" "Because I can," Jack said, tapping his credit chip. "Fine," the guard muttered, "but don't expect thanks." He turned and printed out a small receipt. It was wrinkled and stained, with 5 different unpaid meals listed. Jack paid, without blinking, but when he looked at the paper, something strange caught his eye. At the bottom, next to the signature line, were the words, "Order declined by Central Records, subject status." "Erased." Jack froze. "Why does it say erased?" he asked. The guard shrugged. "It's a bureaucratic thing, probably nothing." But Jack wasn't convinced. He pocketed the receipt and walked out, heading toward the station archives. If Zeltor had really been erased, then there had to be a file, or at least a reason. The entrance to the archives was guarded by 2 droids. Jack flashed his visitor badge, and the door slid open with a hiss. Rows and rows of glowing panels filled the room. He typed the name, Zeltor, into the system. Nothing. Then he tried rescue missions, war veterans, even forgotten pilots. Still nothing. But then he remembered something. Zeltor had mentioned rescuing humans. So Jack searched Zeltor plus human evacuation, and that's when he found it. 1 entry, red flagged, locked, hidden beneath 5 layers of encryption. Access denied. Jack stared at the screen, heart racing. Why would someone erase a hero? What were they hiding? He didn't know it yet, but that bill, the one no one wanted, was just the beginning. By paying it, Jack had bought more than food. He had bought himself into a war of silence, shame, and buried truth, and someone, somewhere, had just noticed. Jack stood in front of the archive screen, his fingers hovering over the panel. The entry he found was real, hidden deep under layers of blocked records. It had 1 name connected to it, Zeltor, but the system wouldn't let him open it. Every time he tried, the message flashed, Access denied. Clearance required. Level 9. Jack leaned back, frustration burning in his chest. He had access as a civilian, just enough to check transport, logs, and repair schedules, but this file? It was locked like it belonged to the Emperor himself. Why would a file about a starving old alien need such heavy protection? Why would someone go so far to hide his past? There was more to this. Jack was sure of it, and he had to find out. He exited the archive quietly, keeping the search logs erased behind him. He knew how to cover digital tracks, thanks to his mechanic training. He'd worked under smugglers, before, the kind who taught him how to hide in plain sight. Back in the lower levels, he found Zeltor right where he had left him the night before, sitting in the shadows behind a row of broken vending machines. He was holding a cup of cold broth, staring at nothing. Jack crouched next to him, lowering his voice. "I searched your name in the archives," he said. Zeltor looked up slowly, his expression unreadable. "There's something locked away," Jack continued. "Something important." "I told you not to dig," Zeltor replied, his voice low and tired. "I had to," Jack said. "I need to know why they want you. Forgotten?" The old alien let out a soft breath, almost a sigh. Then, after a long silence, he spoke. "There was a time," he said, "when I was part of something greater, a rescue fleet called the Light Echo. We weren't soldiers, not really. We saved those who couldn't escape the war zones." Jack listened closely. "We had no weapons," Zeltor said. "Only fast ships, strong hearts, and shields built for carrying life, not death. I flew during the siege of Kareth Delta," he added. "I brought out more than 100 humans from the burning planet." Jack's eyes widened. "I've read about that," he said. "That place was supposed to be lost." "It was," Zeltor said, "until we found a path through the asteroid belt. We made 4 runs under fire, and we lost many, but we got them out." "So why did they erase you?" Jack asked. Zeltor looked away again. "We saw something we weren't supposed to," he whispered. "A message. A secret deal between the Empire and the warlords. They were trading innocent lives for weapons. They let some colonies fall. On purpose." Jack's stomach turned. "And you tried to expose it?" "We recorded the proof," Zeltor said. "But before we could release it, our commander was taken. The others disappeared one by one. I ran, thinking I could survive and one day tell the truth. But I was hunted." Jack felt anger rise in his chest, so the Empire had traded lives, silenced the rescuers, and buried the truth under paperwork and fear. And now, Zeltor was living among trash, blamed for debts, forgotten by history. "We can still tell the truth," Jack said. But Zeltor only shook his head. "Too late," he murmured. "No one listens to old ghosts." Jack clenched his fists. "Then we'll make them listen." Later that night, Jack snuck into a technician's bar near the docking bay. He met an old contact, a former signal hacker named Rin. She owed him a favor, and he planned to use it. "I need access to a level 9 file," Jack said, sliding her the archive code. Rin looked at it and whistled. "This is heavy," she said. "Empire-grade encryption. You sure you want to poke that sleeping beast?" "I don't want to," Jack said, "but someone has to." Rin nodded, then got to work. Her fingers danced over a portable rig, wires glowing, codes shifting. After nearly 30 minutes, the screen beeped. File unlocked. What they saw made Jack's hands go cold. The file included a video, grainy but clear. It showed Zeltor's ship dodging fire, loading refugees. It also showed a secret broadcast intercepted by the crew, an Empire commander speaking with a warlord. His words were simple and cruel. "Let Kareth burn, the weapons will arrive once the civilians are gone." Rin looked at Jack, her face pale. "This could ruin careers," she whispered. "This could spark protests." Jack nodded slowly. "Good," he said. "It's time they remembered who he really is." The truth was out, but it wasn't safe. Not yet. Jack and Rin stared at the glowing screen in silence. The video file still played in a loop. The Empire officer making that cold deal. Zeltor's ship flying through fire. Civilians crying, holding children. It was enough to shake a world, but it was also enough to get someone killed. Rin turned off the screen, her eyes sharp. "If they know you accessed this," she whispered, "you won't make it off this station." Jack nodded, already planning his next move. "I need to get Zeltor somewhere safe," he said. Rin hesitated, then reached under the table and tossed him a keycard. "Level C12, she said. "Maintenance quarters that haven't been used in years. No cameras, no patrols, just dust and silence." Jack didn't waste time. He found Zeltor still sitting behind the vending machines, trying to stay warm with a torn blanket. "We have to go," Jack said. "Where?" the old alien asked, too tired to fear. "Somewhere they won't find you," Jack replied, offering his hand. Zeltor looked at it for a long moment, then placed his trembling fingers into Jack's. Together, they walked through the lower halls, past flickering lights and leaking pipes. C12 was exactly what Rin had promised: rusty doors, broken walls, and a thick layer of silence. But to Zeltor, it was heaven compared to open streets and hungry eyes. Jack cleaned a small room, found a working heater, and even dragged in an old mattress. When he placed a ration pack beside it, Zeltor blinked slowly. "You shouldn't be doing this," he said. Jack replied, without looking up, "I know." The next few hours, Jack stayed busy. He hacked into a few old systems and shut down nearby surveillance nodes. Then he used a second console Rin gave him to hide Zeltor's biometric ID. Now, on the station records, the old alien simply didn't exist. Not dead, not alive, just erased. As Jack worked, Zeltor spoke again. "Why do you care so much?" Jack paused, then sat beside him. "Because once, when I was 15, Jack said, I stole food from a military supply ship. They caught me, beat me, and left me bleeding on the floor. But an old man found me, carried me to safety, gave me water and told me this." He looked at Zeltor and smiled sadly. "You're not broken, just bruised." Zeltor said nothing, but something in his face changed. A small crack in the wall of pain, a little light seeping in. Later that night, Jack met Rin again in a storage bay filled with broken cargo bots. "We need to go public," Jack said. "That video will change everything." Rin frowned. "If you go loud, you'll bring the Empire's eyes here." "We can't wait," Jack insisted. "They'll come for him no matter what." Rin sighed, then nodded. "I'll set up a public broadcast node," she said. "But you need to do the talking." Jack raised his eyebrows. "Me?" "Yeah," she smirked. "You've got that honest mechanic face." Meanwhile, Zeltor sat in the dim room staring at a broken photo panel. It still held a frozen image. A crew of aliens, smiling, standing beside a rescue ship. He touched the screen gently, his fingers tracing the face of a younger version of himself. Then he whispered their names one by one. Gone, erased, forgotten, except him. And now, one human cared. But while Jack prepared to speak the truth, others were already listening. Far above, in a private chamber near the top of the station, a tall alien officer stared at a report. "Unauthorized access to Level 9 file," the report said. The officer narrowed his eyes. "Zeltor," he muttered. "Still alive." He turned to his assistant. "Send a silent team," he ordered. "No witnesses." Back in the maintenance quarter, Jack tested the broadcast signal. It was working, just strong enough to reach nearby systems and public networks. They would launch it at dawn during the morning trade shift. Thousands of visitors would hear it, see the truth, and maybe believe. That night, Jack brought a small radio and played soft music while Zeltor ate his first full meal in weeks. They didn't talk much, but they didn't need to. There was peace in the silence, hope in the quiet. But neither of them knew that shadows were already moving through the vents, and by morning the Empire would come knocking. The station's artificial lights dimmed to night cycle, but danger didn't sleep. Deep within the metal walls of Orlan 7, silent boots moved through the dark. A team of 4 masked agents, dressed in black armor, made their way through maintenance, shafts and hidden corridors. No words, no light, no mercy. Their target was clear: Zeltor. Meanwhile, Jack was wide awake in the lower quarters. He sat at a dusty table checking the final settings on the broadcast signal. The file was ready, the speech written, the footage prepared. At sunrise, the truth would be sent to every screen, every datapad, every docked ship. There would be no hiding it then. Zeltor lay on the mattress, wrapped in an old thermal sheet. His eyes opened slightly, sensing something. He had been hunted before, and that feeling never left him, he whispered. "They're coming." Jack looked up, confused. "Who's coming?" "The Empire," Zeltor said quietly. "They always come before the truth does." Jack stood, heart pounding. He grabbed the small scanner Rin had given him and checked the heat signatures nearby. 4 red dots, moving fast through the walls. Heading right for them, no alarms, no alerts, just death on silent feet. "Can you walk?" Jack asked, already pulling Zeltor up. "Enough to die standing," the old alien said, trying to smile. Jack helped him up, grabbed the memory drive, and opened the maintenance hatch. "We're going out the back," he said. Rin told me there's an old emergency shaft. They slipped into the narrow corridor just seconds before the agents burst into the room. One of them scanned the space, eyes narrowing. "They were here," he muttered. "Find them," the leader ordered. Voice cold and sharp, Jack and Zeltor moved as fast as they could. The shaft was tight. The air smelled of rust and old oil. Jack's hands bled from sharp edges, but he didn't stop. Behind them, footsteps echoed, closer every second. They reached the end of the shaft and dropped into a storage bay filled with broken food crates. Jack slammed the hatch shut and sealed. Zeltor leaned against a wall, wheezing. "We can't outrun them forever," he said. "I'm not trying to," Jack replied, holding up the memory drive. "I just need to upload this before they catch us." Rin's signal node was hidden inside a forgotten cleaning robot nearby. Jack opened the panel and plugged in the drive. The robot blinked to life, humming softly. "Broadcast initializing," it said in a cheerful tone. "Estimated time, 3 minutes." 3 minutes felt like forever. Jack grabbed a metal rod and stood in front of Zeltor, ready to defend him. The hatch above burst open and 2 agents dropped down, weapons drawn. "Step aside, human," the leader said. "You're interfering with classified operations." Jack didn't move. "I'm protecting the truth," he said. The agent aimed his weapon. Jack tightened his grip on the rod, but before the shot could be fired, a blast echoed through the bay. One of the agents fell, smoke rising from his chest. Rin stood at the far end, holding a pulse rifle. "I hate uninvited guests," she shouted. Jack grinned. "Took you long enough. Missed all the fun, didn't I?" she said, reloading. Another agent charged, but Jack swung the rod hard, knocking him aside. Zeltor crawled to the robot, placing a shaking hand on the panel. 30 seconds remaining, the robot said. Rin and Jack held the agents back, fighting with everything they had. Jack took a hit to the shoulder but stayed on his feet. The memory drive beeped. "Upload complete," the robot said cheerfully. "Broadcast in progress." A wave of light surged through the room as the signal burst out of the station. Every screen, every ship, every comm device suddenly lit up with images from the file. Zeltor's rescues, the Empire's betrayal, the forbidden transmission. The whole galaxy was watching now. The agents froze, knowing they were too late. One of them cursed and disappeared into the shadows. The others retreated quickly, leaving their dead behind. No point in killing now. The damage was done. Jack dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Rin rushed to his side, checking the wound. "It's not deep," she said. "You'll live." Zeltor looked at the screen, tears in his old eyes. "It's out," he whispered. "They'll know now." "Yes," Jack said, smiling through the pain. "They will." Outside, across Orlan 7, strangers watched the truth unfold. Dock workers paused mid-shift. Merchants stared at their tablets. Some gasped, some wept, some grew angry. And for the first time in many years, Zeltor's name was spoken, not as a criminal, but as a hero. The screen in the food court flickered to life. Customers paused mid-bite, looking up as a shaky video began to play. It wasn't an advertisement, not a menu update, not a station announcement. It was something else, something raw, something real. The footage showed Zeltor's ship flying through fire, dodging explosions. Screams echoed through the speakers as civilians rushed into the ship. Alien children, human engineers, wounded soldiers, all being pulled from destruction. Then came the voice, clear and cold, the Empire officer speaking to a warlord. Let Kareth burn. The weapons will arrive once the civilians are gone. Silence fell over the entire food court. One spoon dropped to the floor and clattered loudly. Then someone whispered, "Is that real?" Another voice followed. "He was right here, that old alien." Across the station, screens lit up in workshops, in hangars, in bars. Everywhere people stood frozen, eyes locked, hearts pounding. The truth was out, and it burned hotter than any fire. Zeltor sat quietly in the dusty storage bay, his face pale. He was holding Jack's jacket over his shoulders, still trembling from the escape. Jack sat nearby, wounded but smiling. "You did it," Jack said softly. "No," Zeltor replied, his voice full of emotion. "You did." Meanwhile, Rin was already on the move. She spread the video to outer stations, cargo routes and neutral colonies. People who had lost family at Kareth recognized the footage. Old names resurfaced. Testimonies flowed. "I was one of the kids he rescued," said a young pilot on a news stream. "I saw him fly into the flames again and again." The galaxy began to remember, but not everyone was pleased. In the Empire's regional command ship, a red light flashed urgently. A general stormed into the control room shouting, "Who allowed this breach? Why wasn't the file deleted?" A nervous officer stammered, "It was locked, sir, but someone bypassed security." The general slammed a fist on the table. "We erased him from history, yet now his face is everywhere." "Shut it down," he ordered. "Block the stream, erase the copies, issue warnings to all major networks." But it was too late. Copies of the video had already spread across the system. Miners on moons, nurses on distant outposts, even children on learning pods. Everyone had seen it. The truth couldn't be buried again. Back on Orlan 7, something unexpected began to happen. Crowds started forming near the food court. Not angry mobs, but quiet groups holding signs and candles. A young alien girl held up a hand-drawn picture of Zeltor's ship. A human boy beside her held a sign that read, "Let him eat in peace." People shared stories. Some cried, some stood in silence. But they all came for one reason, to say, "We see you now." The station guards, confused and tense, tried to control the crowd, but they weren't trained for peaceful protests, and the captain of the station, watching from above, made a decision. He walked down himself through the crowd until he reached the food court. He stood on a table and spoke loud enough for all to hear. "This station does not belong to the Empire," he said. "It belongs to its people. If this man, this hero, was wronged, then we must make it right." The crowd cheered not with noise but with pure energy. That kind of unity couldn't be ordered, only earned. Jack helped Zeltor walk slowly through the back halls. He didn't want to go out. "There, not yet. It's been so long," he whispered. "I don't know if I can face them." Jack smiled gently. "You already have," he said. "And they're waiting." When they reached the open plaza near the food court, the crowd parted slowly. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the old alien. Some gasped, some bowed, some simply stepped aside in quiet respect. The cafe owner stepped forward, tears in her eyes. She held a tray with a fresh bowl of hot soup. "I made this myself," she said. "No charge." Zeltor took the bowl with shaking hands, his lips trembling. He sat down at the same table where the guards once tried to remove him. But now, the seat beside him was taken by Jack, and the one across from him by a child who wanted to hear his story. From a forgotten name to a remembered legend. From a bill no one wanted to pay to a debt the galaxy couldn't ignore, the broadcast didn't. Just show the truth. It reminded everyone what a hero looked like, and this time no one would erase him again. The food court on Orlan 7 had never been this quiet. Not from fear, not from shock, but from deep shared respect. Zeltor sat at the center, holding the hot bowl of soup with both hands. His fingers shook slightly, not from weakness, but from something new, peace. The table where he once sat alone was now surrounded by people, aliens, humans, young and old, all wanting to be close. Not because he was famous, not because he was powerful, but because they now knew who he truly was. A rescuer, a forgotten hero, a survivor who had given everything and asked for nothing. Jack sat beside him, watching the crowd with quiet pride. He had no medal, no speech, no special title, but his action, paying for one forgotten meal, had changed everything. The cafe owner placed another tray on the table, filled with fresh bread and fruit. She smiled warmly, tears still in her eyes. For the first time in a long time, she said, "This food is being eaten by the right person." Zeltor looked up at her, his voice soft. "Thank you," he said, "for remembering me." "No," she replied. "Thank you for saving us even when we didn't deserve it." The captain of the station arrived soon after, walking with purpose. He stopped in front of Zeltor and gave a respectful nod. "We are issuing a full public apology on behalf of Orlan 7, he said. "We also request your permission to restore your name to the honor registry." Zeltor was silent for a moment, then slowly nodded. "Let the record show I did not vanish," he said. "I was simply waiting for someone to look again." The captain smiled and turned to Jack. "And as for you, Mechanic Weller, we owe you thanks as well." Jack raised an eyebrow. "I just bought a bowl of soup." "You reminded us how powerful that can be," the captain replied. Across the galaxy, reactions continued to pour in. Former soldiers sent messages of support. Families who lost loved ones on Kareth posted photos and stories. Other stations opened similar investigations into erased veterans. A movement had begun, one that couldn't be stopped. Back in the hidden quarters where Zeltor once slept on metal floors, Rin packed up her gear. She grinned as she read the trending headlines. "Old alien saves galaxy, gets free soup. Empire lied. A hero was left to starve." She shook her head and muttered, "About time." In the following days, Zeltor became a symbol, not of war but of quiet resistance. Children asked him questions, news anchors begged for interviews, artists painted murals of his rescue ship flying through fire. And yet, he stayed humble, still preferring quiet corners and warm tea. Jack helped him settle into a small room near the observation deck. It had a bed, a heater, and a view of the stars. Zeltor would sit there for hours watching ships pass by. Sometimes Jack would join him, and they'd talk about small things, not war, not politics, just life and how strange it was. One evening, as they watched a cargo cruiser take off, Zeltor turned to Jack and asked, "Do you ever wonder what made you stop that day?" Jack nodded slowly. "Yeah," he said, "but I think I already knew. My uncle, he was forgotten too. Died on Earth, no medals, no stories, just silence. I couldn't help him. But I could help you." Zeltor closed his eyes for a moment. "I think he would be proud," he said. Jack smiled, looking down at the half-eaten bread on the table. "Funny how it all started over a bill," he said. "Not funny," Zeltor replied. "Kindness always starts small." In the final days of his stay, the people of Orlan 7 held a small ceremony. No flashing lights, no Empire flags, just candles, music, and shared memories. Zeltor stood before the crowd and gave one short sentence. "I am no longer erased," he said, and the crowd applauded, not out of duty, but from the heart. As the stars shifted above them and ships continued to come and go, the station felt different. War hadn't ended, and the Empire hadn't crumbled. But something had changed. One man chose kindness over silence, and one forgotten soul was finally heard. From an empty bowl to a full heart. From a whisper in the shadows to a voice that reached the stars. This was never about credits or war or politics. It was about a simple truth. Every life matters, especially the ones we try to forget.